Welcome back to Talanoa with Tupe. Today we are joined by Wellington author and educator Dahlia Malaeulu. Talofa Dahlia, welcome to the show.
Talofa lava, Tupe. Thank you so much for having me.
It's wonderful. We've turned out slightly coordinated.
Great minds,
Exactly.
obviously.
But tell me about your dress.
So I literally made it this week. I've just always been a person who likes to be creative in everything I do. So if there's something I can't find, I usually just make it. So yeah.
It's one of the things I actually find really inspiring about your story is that you do things yourself. And I want to get into that a bit later, but first let's start at the beginning. So your parents moved to Wellington from Samoa. Can you tell us a bit about your background?
Yeah, sure. So Dad was from the village of Sinamonga in Samoa. Mum is from Vaivassetai, so both Apia city dwellers, quite close to the capital of Samoa. And they came to New Zealand, like many, to have a better life. Mum came for education, actually went to school in at Poral College. Dad came a little bit later for work. They met, settled in Wainuiomata, where they raised my sister and I, which is quite close here to the Hutt Valley. And then from there, I grew up with amazing and inspiring teachers who then encouraged me and also allowed me to kind of be a teacher myself and follow that journey. And I'm really blessed to be able to do that. And then after teaching for about 13 years, I currently now just teach part-time. I also provide professional development workshops for schools and for educators, as well as author and write books. So yeah, bit of a mix of things.
A lot going on.
Yeah.
And from your teaching background, there's, I guess, a lot of resources that you can draw on to help others in their teach Pasifika kids in particular. One of the things that drew me to you initially was an article that you wrote for I Tangata, and in that you talk about your upbringing, and you said that for a while when you were younger you thought that you were Maori. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think growing up you never really know or learn about culture, especially when you're so young. So it wasn't until I had a few experiences that I realised I'm actually a product of my environment. So growing up in Wainuiomata, I had a lot of friends and a lot of them were Māori. At school we happily sang waiata, we joined the kapahaka group, did karakia, and it wasn't until I got asked a question of what my iwi was that really forced me to kind of think about my own identity and what group I belonged to. So after being asked that question, I went home. As you do, you go and ask your mum. Mum was folding kangamea, folding her washing, and I asked her, Mum, what iwi do we belong to? She kind of giggled, threw it off and just said, oh no, that's just for Māori. So that one moment kind of triggered a bit of a journey for me and into my own cultural identity, knowing who I was. Because I started thinking, well, if they're Māori and they have iwis, then what am I and what do I have? And it was not necessarily something that we were brought up and told directly or taught about. So yeah, so that was the moment that really made me think about who I was. Yeah.
I think that's a really insightful reflection, because I think as parents sometimes we take for granted that we're strong in our own identity and therefore our children will automatically pick that up. But because we're not being raised in Samoa, we can't take that for granted.
Yeah, absolutely right. And it's taken me my own journey to realise that our parents and that first generation of migrants, that they are a product of their environment. And they didn't necessarily have to have the tools and strategies to have to teach each other because they were in immersive environments. Whereas when they're now in New Zealand, non-immersive environments are a lot is usually what is happening at homes and within schools and workplaces. And that's where you have a lot of the dual identities pop up and the challenges with our identities and who we are and when we can be Samoan and when the value it is and whether it is an asset or not. So yeah, a lot of issues come up for us as tangata Pasifika. Yeah.